Hi, good.
It's nice to
Okay,
see you.
nice to see you too. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for spending your night with us. Thanks for joining the Able Accounts and Government Programs webinar. Tonight, you will learn from our wonderful guest speakers, Bruce Sham and Susan Walter. And just a reminder that any questions you may have, please place them in chat. So Bruce Sham has dedicated his financial services practice of 44 years to working with families with special needs. His mission is to help families navigate through the difficult process of accessing resources and valuable government benefits for their children and aging family members. He serves on the board of directors for the Association of Adults with Developmental Disabilities and Access Sports Experiences and sits on the advisor board for the Philly Friendship Circle. Bruce and his wife are the founders of the Amanda Sham Resource Center for Children with Special Needs in Abington, PA. This is a nationally acclaimed program that has serviced hundreds of children over the years, regardless of their learning differences or ability to pay. Susan Walter is a newer resident to Philadelphia. A native to Chicago, she was active in the Epilepsy Foundation of Greater Chicago. Her connection to epilepsy is through her adult son, who was diagnosed at the age of 10 with Rasmussen's encephalitis. Her interest in disability planning started with their family's journey. Susan met Bruce Sham through us at the EFEPA and is now working for Bruce in Special Journey Solutions. She has an extensive background in education and instruction. She's writing a memoir about the disability journey and has a passion to assist families with a disability develop customized solutions to support their goals and qualify in quality of life decisions. So, welcome, Bruce and Susan. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I will pass it over to you guys.
Oh, thanks, Rena. We're gonna
Hey, Rena.
use our PR person. I think that would probably that would be great. Okay, I just want to make sure you can see the big screen, the start of the presentation. Yep. Okay.
Yes.
And volume's okay? Just thumbs up. All right, great. Thank you, Rena, so much. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Secretly, I'm kind of glad that it's not warm and balmy outside, that you'd rather spend time with us. So welcome and thank you. As a courtesy to the Epilepsy Foundation, I just want to say upfront, and I'll remind you at the end as well. You can give us a call as a courtesy to the Epilepsy Foundation, as a courtesy to Rena. Thank you so much for having us. We offer a free consultation. I know it can be kind of weird to ask a personal question in, on a Zoom call like this in a webinar. Sometimes questions come up later. That's more like me. I'm like, I should have asked something, or I don't know, after information just kind of sits and percolates. So we offer a free hour consultation to you as a courtesy to the foundation. So please give us a call, reach out. We're here for you. I want to just advance the screen. Tonight, we kind of are dividing the topics in half. We're going to spend the first few minutes or first half kind of talking about ABLE accounts. We did get a couple of questions in advance. I'm making sure I'm wrapping in that information. And then the second half of the program, we're going to be talking about government programs, kind of the big topic right now, like what's going on with Medicaid. So we'll address that. We don't necessarily have lots of, oh,
Right.
Bruce.
Suze, somebody's saying they can't see the presentation. I'm not sure.
Oh,
I'm not sure why. Is anybody else having trouble seeing it?
put something in the chat, please.
Anybody? But very, because I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it as well.
So I'm going to say one thing. If you're on an Apple product or maybe even an Apple phone, make sure that you swipe so that you're not just seeing whoever the volume person, the one who's speaking, and
Oh, right, right. A
that
lot
might.
of people are saying yes, they can see it. So it's got to be something with that person's machine. Okay.
Oh,
Thank
got it.
you.
Sorry. So, oh, let me go back here. All right. Yes. So I hope that cleared it up. Just make sure that you can possibly swipe right or left or up or down in order to see the full gallery view. So
Yeah.
tonight we're splitting this in half. I'll be talking a bit about ABLE accounts. We get a lot of questions. It's one thing to say ABLE accounts, special needs trusts, open an ABLE account. And then there's that big question, oh my goodness, how do I use it now? So we have the time tonight, we can go into a little bit more information. How do I put money in? What kind of funds, what kind of expenses can I use to use from the ABLE account? So, and then Bruce is going to talk about government programs and go into more detail. So use the chat between Rena, Bruce, myself. We'll kind of watch the chat. And if there are questions coming up, we feel free, Rena and Bruce will interrupt, etc. So let's talk first about ABLE accounts. I put a couple stars there next to two things, just so that we kind of address what's going on moving forward. So ABLE accounts traditionally, the disability had to start before the age of 26, and this is what's changing as of January 1. Now it's going to be you can qualify for an ABLE account if you have a qualifying disability before age 46. So this is going to open it up to many, many, many more people. And as you know, when we're talking about medical things, not everything starts before the age of 26. So I think this in particular, I know we're talking to the epilepsy community. I think this is going to be helpful to many, many, many more individuals. So it's still relatively new in the grand scheme of options and things. So it kind of started in 2014. It was hard to find, but now I think every single state offers an ABLE account. It is technically a 529A. So I'm sure you've heard about 529 accounts, college savings. And so this is going to be important when we kind of talk about how to use and where you can find monies for an ABLE account. But it's modeled after the college savings plan, which means it's tax advantaged. Money earned, the interest, if you're doing investments, any of those gains are not taxed. Many of the programs offer debit cards. This is also going to be important, especially when we're talking about the difference between ABLE accounts and special needs trusts. And we'll talk more about contributions a little bit later, but 529 college savings, there was a temporary Social Security legislative issue where it allowed rollovers from 529 accounts. This is now going to be permanent moving forward. So this is a very dense slide. So let me just tell you the important parts. I'll just start from the top, work my way down, kind of like a book, reading it from left to right, top to bottom. So every year, the IRS determines an annual gifting amount, and ABLE accounts follow that same guideline. So the gifting without tax implications, etc., the gifting amount in 2025 was $19,000. Next year in 2026, it's going to be $20,000. So an ABLE account is able to receive a total from third parties of $19,000 in 2025, and it has to be done by December 31st. So unlike maybe like an IRA contribution, you can't do it until April 15th when tax day is due. You need to do this in the calendar year. Then here's a second way we can add some monies to an ABLE account. The person with the disability is the owner of the ABLE account. If they're working and they did not contribute to, or the employer didn't contribute to a retirement savings program, notice they can put an additional $15,060. This amount goes up every year. In 2026, that dollar amount is not yet available and published, but it'll go up roughly $450, maybe upwards of $500. Okay, so we can expect that $15,060 to increase a little bit in 2026. So this is earned income, earnings up to max this $15,060. So there's some confusion. On this next one, it shows how states have set ABLE account limits. So let me kind of talk about the myth and the reality. ABLE accounts technically can grow, can be much bigger. But if you need to qualify for Medicaid, and this includes someone on SSI, and you want those, the government to qualify for the government programs, you cannot have more than $100,000 in an ABLE account. So one of the questions that came in prior to this evening was, I've been told I should have an ABLE account and a special needs trust. I think of this not as an or, I think of it as an and, because we use them a little bit differently. So notice here, the ABLE account is owned by the person with a disability. The third-party special needs trust is for the benefit of the person with the disability, but it is not owned by them. So for example, in my little family, my son's name is Henry. He has an ABLE account. This is Henry's money. He still qualifies for his SSI and his Medicaid. We keep the limit under under $100,000, right? He also has a special needs trust. We use the ABLE account more like for smaller items, for some flexibility, whereas the special needs trust is very much for the future. When I'm no longer here, when his sister kind of takes over and is his person for trustee and all that other kind of stuff, way, hopefully way down the line. So I just wanted to mention a couple of other things here. If there is a special needs trust can put money into an ABLE account. Tax-free, no, it's perfectly fine to do. It is also limited to that total of the annual gifting amount. So wherever you have the ABLE account, whether it's Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, whatever, they keep track of the deposits and they will let you know if you're getting anywhere near close to your 19,000. Let's see what else. I'm going to move over.
Susan,
Hey,
we do
yeah.
have some questions that have funneled through. Do you want
Yeah, I've been
me?
Go
answering
ahead.
them vigorously.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and
But
ask it
no,
out
but I
loud.
think if everybody's benefit, Susan, the first one is, would a transfer from a special needs trust be considered a third-party transfer?
Okay, yes, it is. It is exactly a third-party transfer. So I want you to think about it like this. That third-party special needs trust is a third party. So any monies coming from that special needs trust given to the ABLE account, whatever the total is for the year, it is part of that total. So it
Yeah,
cannot exceed in 2025 at 19,000.
correct.
Correct.
But you can, the next, one of the next questions is that, just to reiterate, we can move 19,000 into a regular 529A from an ABLE account. We can do that.
Yep.
But then there is a question about moving it from a sibling. You know how like we can move, change beneficiaries for siblings? I
Mhm.
don't believe you can do that. I can't take Mallory's account and put it to Amanda, right? Like, doesn't it have to be our child's money?
So, right, if you're talking about the rollover from a 529, or are you talking about a special needs trust?
Rollover from a 529
So
specifically to 529A, can it be from a sibling's account?
actually, yes.
If you roll it first, right?
Right. So if you look at this last bucket, last one, funds from a 529 can be rolled into an ABLE if the account has the same beneficiary or member of the family. So
Yeah.
sibling monies can be done. And I know it gets a little bit more confusing and complicated. Accountants, Bruce and I, we know how to do that.
But that is relatively a newer
Yeah.
little twist, right?
But
I
if you
remember
think
when
about
we
it
used to,
too, 529 monies can like up at the college savings level, if you just got money in a 529, I can change the beneficiaries over time. It's not something that's cemented in stone. So there is a little bit of flexibility in there. It's not like I just snap my fingers and it's done, but
Yeah.
it's possible. Mhm.
I mean, these were relatively new. I mean, it was passed in 2014. We didn't start seeing them till 2017.
Right.
And a lot of these, rulings and different twists, people ask all the time, what happens when the individual dies? Does it become part of their estate? Does it get paid back? How does the payback work? There's so many unanswered questions because there's no real history on it, right?
Right. Right.
But we know that you can change beneficiaries on a 529 account.
Mhm.
It appears now you can probably do that with this as well,
Yes.
right?
And
If you're in the same family, if you're in the, that's the caveat. I can't give it to my brother's kids.
no.
Right.
Right. Right. Okay. Are you ready? I'm going to
Yep.
go ahead.
I think I got them all.
No, that's fine. If more come up, we can take a look at this. I did this in order to kind of address um, examples of what can go into an ABLE account, because this is a question. We had a client recently who received back payments from Social Security for SSI. And after multiple appeals, it was, the total was probably well over $15,000. So obviously you can't leave that $15,000 sitting in someone's checking account when they need to qualify for Medicaid and SSI, right? So it's perfectly okay, legal, it's reasonable. This is a great use of an ABLE account as a place to shift that excess money. Now, technically, you have 6 months, and there are ways that we can take a look at, um, swiping down that $15,000, right, to back under 2,000. But an ABLE account can take up to, in this year, $19,000 of back payment, as long as it's still within the total of everything that you're putting in the ABLE account. But an ABLE account is an excellent place to put that monies. Gifts from the third party. So whether it's coming from Aunt Mary for 19th birthday, whether it's coming from a transfer from a special needs trust, whether it's coming from a part of the rollover from a college savings plan 529, as long as that total from all of these separate places are, it's fine as long as it doesn't go over 19,000. Okay. Um, then there's the earned income. So if the person is working, if my Henry gets a job, and I know a lot of our kids are getting nice jobs, they can put up to $15,060 in this year. So I just wanted to give you this example. In 2025, here's the total of what could go into the ABLE account. It's earned income, not unearned income, not gifts and things to make up that 15,000. So, a question, why is this different than a special needs trust? So, A, the individual with a disability owns the assets in the ABLE account. In a third-party special needs trust, they are the beneficiaries. It's for the benefit of that person, but it's not their assets. So it's two different things. An ABLE account can have a debit card. It can be great for going to the Wawa, going to the movies. Um, Lots of flexibility in small purchases, but I'll get to big purchases in a minute as well. Whereas a special needs trust, you're not going to try and withdraw $5.50 for the big slurpy slushy hot dog from a special needs trust. So I think the ABLE account and a special needs trust used for slightly different purposes gives you a lot of flexibility. Here's this one last slide. Um, the term is QDE, Qualified Disability Expense. And if you notice, I listed a whole bunch of things over there on the right side. Education. My son likes to take a class every so often. I can use that to pay for a class and supplies. I'm never supplanting or taking the place of his benefits. but I am supplementing. So he really likes workout clothing. Um, Medical. My son, with his seizures, especially when he was in high school, fell on his face a lot, and he needed 4, 5, 6 teeth crowns, root canals, and all that kind of stuff. That's not paid for by any of his medical coverage, right? So I could use his ABLE account for that. How about vacations? He's getting older. Maybe he should start paying for parts of his vacations instead of me paying for everything all the time. Well, whatever. He would prefer that I pay for everything all the time. But he can pay his way, and you can use Able account money for that. What really he can't do is buy me a gift. So he can't go out on Mother's Day and buy me my flowers and a massage and a mani and all of these other lovely things. He just can't use that money for me. He can use that money for himself. Legal fees. Yes. You need to write a power of attorney for your kid when they're 18 years old? Absolutely. Able accounts can pay for that. So think about this kind of flexibility. I've got some, assistive technology things here. Yes, housing. Goodness sakes, able accounts. I had a friend in Kentucky who needed one of those fancy outfitted minivans. And so the minivan, because it was used for the child, they used able account monies to pay for a brand new minivan with the outfitting and all of that other technology and services. So I just want to give one little caveat here. Timing can matter. So when we're looking at something like housing, when we're looking at food, we want to make sure that the expense is in the same month as the payments. So that's just kind of like a sticky little thing, but the way I do it in my house, because I like to reimburse myself and I really love my points on my credit cards, I end up reimbursing myself for a lot of these things. So that's another way to kind of get around things. I keep a ledger. I've never been audited, but there's that. So were there any other questions? I have a few. Oh, I know. If you haven't yet set up an Able account, it's really fairly simple, generally speaking. And I do recommend that to create some ease and flexibility, if the person who has the disability, epilepsy is a qualifying disability for an ABLE account. If you don't necessarily, if you're not on SSI, if you're not on Medicaid, sometimes they'll just ask for a doctor's note. If you have SSI, if you're accepting Social Security, one of your pieces of correspondence, that qualifies as proof of disability. So there are lots of different ways to kind of enter into the system, but I think they are excellent. Able accounts are an excellent way to create some flexibility. Okay.
Suze, can I just make one comment? Because I think it's very important
Absolutely.
that you brought up about housing. And
Mhm.
most of the families on the call probably realize that, your social security is supposed to be used for housing, right? Like that's what they want social security to be used for.
Mhm.
But often the cost of the apartment, I mean, I don't know if you're only getting the $646, right? Or if you're only getting $967, there's no way that that's going to be enough to pay a $1,200 or $1,500 a month rental. That's the beauty of this ABLE account. Whereas if a parent was just paying that difference, it could be considered income to your child
Mhm.
and create a problem. So these ABLE accounts are a really valuable resource for those of us. And again, Susan and I are both parents of children with special needs, for those of you meeting us for the first time. And so we are using these ourselves to navigate this process. So I thought that was just an important little
Nope.
add-on, right?
So I'm going to forward the slide and we're going to be moving on to Bruce. I will check the, what's the word? The chats.
Yeah, navigate the chats for me, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I see there are a couple of things. Where do you open up an ABLE account? So there is, we use the state one often, the paable.gov. The American Funds has an ABLE account. Vanguard, I believe, has an ABLE account, and Fidelity might have an ABLE account. Even though Susan and I are registered representatives and we can, you know, actually open these, we like the state account because it gives your children the debit card.
Mhm.
When we have clients that have, like, with the investment companies, I can't send them $5 when they're at Wawa for a Slurpee with their friends, right? But if they have their ABLE account debit card from the state, they can use that anywhere, and it gives the child a little bit more independence. The only time we typically are opening up bigger accounts is if somebody's left an inheritance and we want to, in a lump sum, dump $15,000. We don't really have enough money to warrant opening up a trust, but, and then maybe we'll put it in an investment account. But remember, these accounts are typically the children's money who are starting to earn money. Maybe they're getting the parents' Social Security, so now their Social Security doubled, right?
Mhm.
Because they're getting the disabled adult child benefit. And what we're able to do is have $300 to $500 a month go right into the ABLE account. So what just happened to me won't happen to you, because the first of the month for Labor Day came over the weekend and my daughter's apartment didn't cash her check till the 5th. Well, on the 5th, there was more than $2,000 in her account. And you know what? They don't care. I had to appeal it. Actually had to go on an appeal and explain that, they check it on when they checked their account, there was more than $2,000 in there. So these are
Yeah.
all, just everything that we're sharing, we have lived through, as well as, obviously study daily.
Here are just a couple of questions. What do we mean by personal support services? Wouldn't a person's DDD, for example, pay for that? I'm going to say, oops, I'm sorry, Bruce.
No, you're right. Because maybe it doesn't pay the whole thing, right?
It
Maybe
doesn't
it does.
necessarily pay the whole thing, or maybe you don't have enough hours. So I know I ran into issues when I wanted respite care. So I was able to use some ABLE account monies for it's almost like extra. Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Extra hours, extra time,
Yeah, right.
extra services.
All right. I'm going to hand this over to you, Bruce, and I
Okay,
will
great.
try and.
And the last question from Jim, Jim, I actually did that. I actually did go from a state ABLE account for my daughter to the American Funds because, again, she has a debit card. She wasn't using it. And being a registered rep, it was easier for me to do it that way. But you can do it either way. You can go you're just only allowed to have one ABLE account. That's really what the rule. You can only have one. But if you feel that you want to have more fund options, more control, in the state account, it just says a growth fund, a moderate fund. We don't really know what they're investing in. We don't know what fees they're, incurring. With the fund companies, you can look specifically at the funds they make available for the account. So I hope that helps. And again, we're available offline to answer any questions. I believe Rena will get a copy of this. You'll have our phone numbers, right, and our contact information.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was just going to say too that you are limited to changing ABLE account institutions per year. So it's not something you can do every month. It's like
Yeah.
1 or 2 years. You're limited. Okay.
All right. I'm sorry, my voice is starting to go out. I've done 3 Social Security hearings today.
No, I'm sorry.
And as you can tell, I get very passionate, and we obviously, if we're working with you, we help your family throughout throughout the life. So, okay, why don't we advance the slide, Susan? And as we talk about the future, just big picture, there are really 4 areas that we get involved in. I know today we're only going to focus on column 3, but I do think it's important that you understand that when you're planning for your children, you got to look at what do we have? What do we have to work with? Yes, the government benefits are a piece of it, but it's very important that we take time to just look at, okay, what do we have that we've accumulated? What maybe are we getting from other family members in the ways of inheritances and gifting? What are our employer benefit plans? What are the specific assets that we have? And which are the better assets for our children to potentially inherit? We spend a lot of time going over that with families because each asset may impact the trust, may impact the family, the individual with the special needs differently.
Mm-hmm.
You'll keep hearing a lot about means tested benefits, entitlement benefits, right? Which are the best benefits we don't want to jeopardize for our children from the government benefits. I'm going to talk about DAC benefits, waiver programs. How do we maximize these government benefits and not lose other valuable resources? It's almost like you get one thing and then you lose something else. Or we just had an appeal today. We were able to put the child on MAUD, medical assistance for workers with disabilities. And I'm going to talk about the different levels of earnings you're allowed to have and still keep Medicaid. Well, with MAUD, you can earn up to 3101. But for those of us who are just with SSI, we can only earn up to 1620 a month. But when the child goes on the DAC benefit, if your child is getting half of your $3,800 benefit and they're getting now $1,900 just from Social Security, plus if they have a little job and maybe they make another $1,000, well, now they're at $2,900. Fortunately, if you have a waiver, you can earn 2,901. But what about our children who don't have waivers? And this is really a challenge because if they don't, it's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg? You need the waiver to get the Medicaid and you need the Medicaid to get the waiver. And if you've now lost your Medicaid and don't have the waiver, MAUD has been something that quite honestly, the judges at these hearings have said to us, Bruce, have the family pay the child $10 a month. $10 a week. Doing laundry, taking out the trash, doing some light gardening, and get them qualified for MAUD, medical assistance for workers with disabilities. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But then all of this has to somehow neatly be tidied up within your legal documents. Because again, we see documents all the time. Everybody says to me, Bruce, we have a trust. Yes, every one of us has a trust if we had minor children before they were diagnosed. And it's going to say that when Bruce turns 18, he can get the interest. When he's 21, he can get a third of it. When he's 25, he can get a third of it. And if our children have access to the principle of a trust, they will lose their benefits. They know that is going to count against the resource limit. And I know many of you have said to me, but my child's on disability now. They're allowed to have unlimited resources. No, not if you have Medicaid. And it's very hard to sort of wrap your head around that because any of us could be on disability and we could have millions of dollars in the bank, right? But we're not on Medicaid. Our children need Medicaid and Social Security and ABLE accounts and special needs trust accounts, right? So that they can live out their life with some dignity. Let's take a look at the difference, Susan, if we could advance, of what we consider entitlement benefits, because you're hearing a lot of this right now with the government and everything, and then what is considered public assistance, okay? And I sort of wish these two columns were reversed because, we look at SSI is a means tested benefit, okay? Medicaid is a means tested benefit. And until our children are 18, often they are getting the Medicaid, our income and our resource are not impacted. It's based on diagnosis. But once they become 18, and they are considered their own household, It is based on their income and resources. A lot of people don't realize that. They're like, well, wait, we had it all along. Why now are we losing it? Okay. And a lot of parents will say, well, I applied for Social Security. I couldn't get it because they looked at your income. Social Security is different. Okay. Look, if your income is so low and you're below what they consider the poverty level, the standard, okay, children can get Social Security before they are 18, but often the parent's income is going to knock them out of the box. But when they are 18, you need to apply again. Look, I was one of those parents that said, I'm not bothering to apply again. We got turned down before. Why would I want to go through it again? Because it's only based on your child's income and resources at age 18. Okay. Other things that we look at is the SNAP program, right? SNAP for nutrition and food stamps. Nothing to be ashamed of. This is something that our children are entitled to, and it can be up to $293 a month. I mean, that is real money. Not to mention the little sunbucks that they gave this year, right, over the summer for kids. You don't want to leave money on the table that's there. You will see later on in the presentation that now that this new bill has been passed, there are certain key dates that you're going to want to be mindful of, because the government is going to be imposing some additional restrictions and requalifications. And I know those of us whose children have seizure disorders, my case, microcephaly, other anomalies, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, we all know these things don't go away. We are now going to have to 2 to 4 times a year tell somebody on the state level that our child's seizure disorder didn't go away, that my daughter's microcephaly did not go away. It is very upsetting to have to go through that. But I just want you to get ready for it, because that's what's happening. Okay. So for those of us who are really count on these public assistance type benefits, we just need to study it and follow the rules, right? And work through it, because we don't want to jeopardize it. Okay. Entitlement benefits are the Social Security retirement income, the family benefit that we were talking about, that disabled adult child benefit. And many of us who are going to retire, I'm telling you, if you go into the office and you're just chit-chatting away, they're not asking all the time the 5th question on the application, do you have an adult child with a disability? If you are not asked the question, I beg you to tell them, by the way, I do have an adult child with a disability. If we're doing the filing for you, we know to ask the question, and it's right there. But I can't tell you how many people we meet that tell us they did not know that this was something that was available. And it's only because they're not talking about it, right? It just makes me crazy. Okay. A lot of families have said to me, Bruce, my child got Medicare. I'm not even old enough for Medicare yet. How is it that my child has Medicare? Well, our children, if they are working and they have earned over 20 quarters, worked over 20 quarters of time, they actually, you will see automatically, you're not asking for this. You're going to see that they're going to be getting a little bit SSI and SSDI. And when they qualify for SSDI, they qualify for Medicare. Now, that in itself is not the best thing, okay? Because again, you need Medicaid to be able to get your benefits, your waiver programs, okay? But we also all know that a lot of our doctors, and like Susan was talking about her son with the dental work, right? A lot of these doctors are not accepting Medicaid. Everybody pretty much accepts Medicare. So that's a little bit of the mixed blessing that they, now can get both. Okay. It's not bad to have both. What you are going to see is, depending on your child's actual total earnings or total income, sometimes the Medicare $185 premium is paid for by the government. Sometimes it is. Once they go on the parent Social Security, that often goes away. Okay. So don't be surprised if your child's Social Security goes from the 900 to the 1900, that when they had 900, the Medicare was paid for. Now you're going to have to pay the 185. Again, these are the rules, right? And I think you want to make sure that you have both. What I am going to say, and I can't say it loud enough or with enough passion, do not put your child, if they are receiving a waiver, on a Medicare Advantage plan. If they have the intellectual disability waiver, right, Susan, on the other waivers, which we'll talk about, okay, through the community health choices, it's okay. But many of our children with seizure disorders have intellectual disabilities, autistic characterization, and are medically compromised, right? And you may know, or maybe this is new, that there are many more waivers for individuals with intellectual disabilities. Often parents will say to me, my child has autism, but now that, he was just given the ID, the intellectual disability diagnosis. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so great. And they're like, why is that great? I say, well, it opens up the door for so many more waivers. Okay. Yeah. But we will talk in a few minutes a little bit about the independence waiver, the OBER waiver, and waivers that are available to our children who need nursing care through the Department of Aging. It's a different entry point. And we don't hear a whole lot about it. We really don't hear a whole lot about it because we think about that for our parents and grandparents. We don't think about it for our own children. There's something in Pennsylvania called an Act 150 for families who have been denied Medicaid, but their children need basic nursing care. And so all of this is entered through the Department of Aging, and we can help you navigate that process. So again, there's lots of doors. It's just making sure that we find the right door. But we have the keys to all the doors. We just have to make sure that we're giving you the right key. Right. So it is very important, though, because, again, I'm spending a lot of time, these enrollment brokers. And again, our kids are living independently. If my daughter got a call and somebody said, Amanda, you can get $300 of free DoorDash, and we're going to give you 10 Uber rides if you change from traditional Medicare to a Medicare Advantage plan. Oh, and guess what, Amanda? You're not going to have to pay the $185 because there's no cost for a Medicare Advantage plan. And my daughter's going to say yes, and that's going to be the end of it, right? What she doesn't know is that there's a $14,000 deductible, right? That's not discussed or disclosed. So, I mean, this is a big issue now, and they're very aggressive the minute that our kids are eligible for Medicare. All right. Oh, and when the survivor benefit, when we do pass, our children get 75% of our benefit. That's huge. Our benefits are up to $4,500 a month. You're getting 75% of that, you're going to be over the MAUD limit. So there's lots of different spend down things and other things that need to be done to keep those benefits. Okay, let's move on. Jim, where can you find the resource limits? Through the Pennsylvania Law Project or from the New Jersey Law Project? They are published. They're very close to the numbers that I shared with you. Like in the state of New Jersey, it's a couple bucks. It's actually a couple bucks more. New York, it's even more. But we can get them out to you. We can make sure that Rena has that. But like I said, 1620 with the basic Social Security. If you end up getting Medicare and you don't have a waiver, it actually goes down to 1304, which is very, very upsetting. If you have MAUD, it can go up to 3101. And if you have a waiver, that 2901 is the saving grace for most of our families. But there is going to be that occasional family that doesn't have the waiver because the children are more medically compromised than intellectually compromised. And that's where we're working through this other venue. Right. Okay. So again, these are the four big government buckets, plans: Social Security supplemental income for your lower earnings or before you've built true Social Security benefits, if you will, Social Security disability, whether you're getting it from a parent or from your own earnings, you have now crossed from Social Security supplemental income to SSDI. Your reporting requirements are a lot easier when you're on SSDI. But again, if you are getting Medicaid, you must adhere to the Medicaid resource limits.
Right.
Everybody says, Bruce, I'm on SSDI, I can have $8,000. And I say, no, you can't. Okay. If your state says, now again, we're working with somebody in Chicago, they can have up to $17,000 even though these are federal programs, they are administered by the state. So we do need to look at the state. Okay. And I know somebody mentioned if we move out of state, a lot of times when we're doing your wills and your trusts and your legal planning, we find out that if something happened to us, our kids are going to go live with their brother in California. It's not easily transferable, right? It's not automatically transferable. Let's put it that way. I mean, basically we have to start from scratch when the children move. So, I mean, that's a topic for another whole time, but that falls in line with the state specific programs, if you will. Okay. We're almost done. I apologize for my voice. I'm really losing my voice and I'm really struggling to keep the words coming out. But these next two slides, I think, are extremely, extremely important, right? We talked about before our kids turn 18, right? Making sure that we are letting case managers know that we are going to need waiver services when our children graduate. I don't think you can get on those waiting lists too soon. There are thousands of people on waiting lists. I had a family say to me today, oh, we're at the top of the list. And I said, I know, and so am I. And so is Mary Poppins. And so is everybody else. We're all at the top of the list. But what happens is, and this really is very sad because the waivers only become available when somebody dies. And I, who run two social groups, one with 160 kids and one with 100, the first thing that goes through my mind is who died, right? It's very upsetting. But I mean, we're talking about the whole state. But when a slot becomes available, they're looking at every one of us who's at the top of the list and who needs it the most. Okay. So again, you can't get on those lists too soon. I will say it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. Unfortunately, one of us has to get cancer. One of us has to die. One of us can't be able to drive anymore. It's unfortunate that that's what drives your escalation to the top of the list, right? Based on your need. Okay. But again, before 18, look at the services that you're entitled to. So, it just amazes Susan and I when we meet families and their children never, ever were enrolled in early intervention or registered with their county, or they somehow managed to get through school and never be registered. They're not even eligible for case management. They don't have a caseworker, right? So please, please make sure. And again, look, I was that same person. The caseworker didn't do anything. I've gone through 4 caseworkers this year, but they need to know that our children are here. And as our kids are getting older, they are responsible for seeing them 4 times a year, making sure they are safe, making sure they are getting the services that they need. And so even if it wasn't a great experience when they were little, please, please, please make sure they are enrolled now for the balance of their life. Okay. Because 18 and over, everything changes. The rules sort of change. All right. I really want to get to the last 2 slides and leave some time for questions. People ask us about the waivers, and in New Jersey, of course, DDD is a little different, but they both have a budget. They have, and actually we're now working with an organization in North Jersey, and the numbers are very, very similar, right? The PFDS waiver is mostly for habilitation support, in-home support, not nursing care, but to help the children learn how to do laundry, cook, go grocery shopping, to be independent. It can even be used to go bowling, to go, hang out, watch a movie, play tennis, any of these things. That PFDS waiver is wonderful. I've had people say to me, well, Bruce, we really need community waiver. We need my child to have housing and lodging, and I'm just going to wait. No, do not wait. If you were given the opportunity to get PFDS, you're already in the door. Okay. If you had the opportunity to get base funding when your kids were a little younger, we got a couple $1,000s for camp. Take it. You're in the door when you get that. Okay. Like I said, you can't be thrown out of the door unless you pass away. So community living waiver is really the waiver that we are really trying to get, because that will help towards housing. We're not seeing a lot of consolidated waivers coming out nowadays. I really think this is something that you are going to see start to go away with the federal funding being cut. My concern is the federal funding going to impact community and PFDS? That is to be determined. But you can do a lot with these two other waivers. We did mention the OBRA independence waiver. This is the waiver through the Department of Aging that will help with medically compromised individuals who need that skilled nursing care, the assistance with their activities of daily living. So this is something, again, it's a different process. Susan knows a lot about it. It is a different process, but if we get in the door, it can be extremely valuable. There's the autism waiver. We talked about PUNs, prioritizing the urgent needs. So again, I just want you to be aware of them when you're working with case management. We will even join you with a case management meeting so that we can ask some of these questions if that would be helpful. All right, but let's get to the next slide before we get shut down here. I think this and the one after it are probably the two most important slides in the deck here. These are the dates. You know, we all have heard about the bill. There's still a lot of unknown about what did pass, what didn't pass. When are the different things going to take effect? What are the dates that these things are going to take effect? You know, everybody, you know, we hear sometimes what we want to hear, you know, and even myself, like, oh, Social Security isn't going to be taxed. Well, guess what? That didn't pass. That did not pass. If Social Security wasn't going to be taxed, that would have been huge, right? We all would have loved that, right? But what's going to affect us the most if our kids are getting food stamps, and that's going to start now, right? That's going to start soon. The expanded work requirements and the reduced eligibility. And if you are in an expansion state, which Pennsylvania and New Jersey are, they have embraced this, okay? They have embraced it, okay? I want to just highlight the things. At the end of 26 is when we're going to start seeing some of these changes with Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. My feeling is that some of us may actually be contributing to our children's Medicaid. We might start to see that. You know, it's not going to just go away, right? It's not going to just go away. And what I have heard from my local state regulators, that individuals with disabilities, you know how the law says, with some exceptions, but it doesn't elaborate on what the exceptions are, okay? But what I'm hearing, again, and it will be soon to be seen, is that our kids are probably part of the exception. But I do worry if they are forced to work 20 hours or do volunteer work, community service, or go to school, how that's going to impact our children. So, I mean, I just think we need to be aware of it. I discussed it with my case manager today. You know, a lot of your local colleges are now doing programs. We're pretty excited about some of the things that we're learning from other local colleges. And some of them even accept waiver funding, but participation now in something new that our kids maybe haven't done in the past, to me, that's going to be my daughter's entry point through the college level, working with a local university. If she has to up her to the 20 hours, I think that would be a great option. So again, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. All right. But please, you know, even for the SNAP benefits in 2027, October of 27, many states are going to actually impose this 15% cost. You're going to get a reduction basically, if the federal government is not subsidizing those benefits. So again, every state's going to be different. A lot of people say to me, Bruce, Pennsylvania is very progressive. But again, if the federal government cuts back what the state of Pennsylvania is getting, how are they going to be able to give us the money that they've been giving us? Okay. So I think this is a very nice timeline. So you want to just show the next slide? Because some people, this is just another way of looking at the same slide, pretty much. But it actually just shows. I mean, really, I think it just shows it in a different way, right? It shows a selection of policies from the big, beautiful bill. And again, we incorporated some of the things that had already been in place prior to that. But I think it's important that you sort of see when things are going to happen. If you forget everything else, just remember, I mean, right now, that when we have to requalify for Medicaid, we usually get the form 4 days after it's due. And now we're going to have to do it twice a year, maybe even 4 times a year. Make sure you're on your Compass website and make sure you know when your children's renewal date is, and make sure that you get that paperwork in on time. Okay. Why don't, I think that's probably a good place to close.
Mhm.
Right. Questions. We have a few minutes.
Okay, so I know one question came in and I'm trying to find them. Robin, or sorry, how do we know that a caseworker is actually advocating for our kids?
You have to be there with them, Robin, and I'll be right there with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you have to do. I mean, our supervisor today was supposed to come for a major ISP meeting for my daughter, and she left the agency. That these people, they're entry-level social workers. They work for 6-8 months, and then they go and try to find another job. I think we have to be the ones that are advocating, for our kids. Susan and I are doing more and more education to the siblings now who may be potentially taking over. And we're working more and more with the trust companies and the other agencies that know how to advocate and support our kids. And unfortunately, that's the answer, right? That we have to look within ourselves. Yes, these slides are going to be sent to Rena, right, for distribution.
Yes, happy to do that. I believe Rena records too.
Yeah, a lot of times these are on the website, right? You have these recorded on the website.
Yes, I'm gonna post this on our YouTube. I'll send everyone the recording with the YouTube, and then whatever you guys send me, I can distribute to the attendees.
Yeah. And Susan, the OBRA waiver does have a separate application, right? Through the PAIEB, right?
PAIEB, So that
Yep.
stands for Pennsylvania Independent Enrollment Broker.
Right. We can help you with that, Robin. It's something new that we sort of are perfecting.
Yeah, we're testing it on me first.
Oh, we're test driving it. Anything else?
See, maybe a question came in. Oh, just a thank you. Okay, that's nice.
Oh, that's always good.
So I
We
can.
really value the work that we do with the Epilepsy Foundation. We have been with you for years now. Just please reach out. Don't want to see that you're missing anything or you're not getting something that you're entitled to.
That's right. Love you guys. Definitely reach out. Let's chat.
Okay.
Thank you both so much. That was fantastic, and I will be sending a follow-up email to everybody.
Oh, any info?
I see one for disabled adults. Of course, like what we today, I was working with the Parkinson's Foundation. If you yourself are suffering from a debilitating illness, please reach out. Penn Neurology refers us, their ALS patients, Parkinson's patients, because we understand how to work with your group benefits and other services. So you're not impoverishing your family and you're getting the maximum care that you are entitled to and that you can afford to get. So if you yourself are experiencing or suffering with a disability, please reach out. Happy to help you. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tina.
Thank you, Bruce, Susan. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a good
All right.
night.
Have a great
Thank
night,
you.
everybody. Bye-bye.